I'm very lucky to have been able to grab a few minutes with my guest this evening because he's just setting out on a challenge that would have Ian Botham, Eddie Izzard, or Kevin Sinfield wincing, because my guest is Ian Darler, who's the stadium manager for Cambridge United. And Ian, you've bitten off something quite substantial this time, haven't you?
Yeah, I think there was a challenge come forward from Shout and our team manager Mark Bonner to try to walk from London to Qatar. So I've taken the challenge on, and we're going to be walking 3,229 miles before the first World Cup game kicks off.
That's incredible. Now, I was trying to work out what that entails, and you were saying earlier that's the equivalent of doing about 15,000 steps a day every day between now and then.
Yeah, we obviously, as I mentioned, sort of in the dispatches that went out, or the interviews that went out, we have previously done a 1,000,000 step challenge, and we've actually carried that on. So it's actually going to work out. My step is about a yard, so we've got to do just over 5.5 million steps to get to that target.
Wonderful. Now, the charity is Shout, as we mentioned. Now, to be doing this for Shout, it must mean a great deal to you, this charity. Can you just explain a little bit about the background as to why this charity means so much to you?
I think initially Shout is the after runner of the Heads Up campaign. The Heads Up campaign was launched at Cambridge United by the Duke of Cambridge. Everybody knows the input the Duke has given to mental health. Secondly, I ended up doing this for Shout because exactly this time last year, I had a very close friend who took his life. And I'd seen him 3 days before, and there was no real sign that there was anything wrong with him at all. But he just didn't have the confidence to ask for help. And every time I think about it, it makes the hairs on my arm stand up. But that's the reason I'm doing it. And we've had such a big response with people coming forward, actually talking about their mental health since I've been doing it. I just feel obligated to carry on because having been through certain elements myself a number of years ago through serious depression and being diagnosed with PTSD after a serious accident, I know what it's like. Everybody is different, but if this helps save one person's life and keeps a family together, then that's what the aim is.
Now, this charity, it offers phone lines and phone support for people who feel the need to speak to somebody. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And initially it's targeted more at people texting because all the kids nowadays are on the phone all the time, texting backwards and forwards. So if they are struggling, they can text Shout and they will get a call back. And obviously that is the starting point. But just to show the essential part that these are now playing, Scott, when Shout started, they were getting 750 calls a day. That has now gone to them getting 2,400 Shout calls every single day. And it just shows the situation. And when you're going through something like this and you're having to wait for an NHS appointment for weeks or months, let me tell you, after what I went through, an hour sometimes is too long. So again, if there's somebody within the family who's struggling, this really does give them an outlet to seek help.
It really is a worthy cause. Now, how are you going to go about this actual challenge? I'm looking at you now. You don't appear to be putting steps in at the moment. You seem to be having a seat, maybe a well-deserved seat. But how will you go about ensuring that this challenge is met?
Again, I think like most greenkeepers, groundsmen and whatever, we do quite a big footfall anyway. But we're also including public walks so that people can join me when the weather picks up. I've bought myself a treadmill, so at night I can sort of get on there and smash a few sort of 1,000 steps out. And it's just really just being out there in the public so people can see what we're doing and encouraging other people to join us as well. Because what's been proven to work was when I did the 1,000,000 step challenge, we were having between 30 and 40 people walk with me. And there was people, I would always walk in front, way ahead. So if someone wanted to come and talk to me, they could. And the amount of people, again, Scott, that came forward of all ages to confess they were struggling with their mental health and they'd never, ever spoken about it before. So again, I will be smashing the steps out at work. I'm doing bits and pieces in my lunch hour. I'm doing things on the treadmill. I'm walking around various villages at weekends. It's good for my therapy as well. Although I'm in a pretty good place now, but it's just getting that footfall there.
Now, there's another reason I could consider you to be a remarkable man, because so many times you hear that, oh, I've got a book inside me and all I need to do is write it. You've actually written your book, Life's a Pitch, that came out a couple of years ago. That must have been a challenge as well. And I know part of that book talks about your mental health challenges that you've had there, but doing a book, that must have been something as well. Can you talk a little bit about that, Ian?
Yeah, I think when I was first initially approached, I thought it was a wind up. I think, like most people who work in the greenkeeping world, you work with some clowns, and I've worked with the biggest ones. And some of the pranks that they played on me over the years. But I was given the opportunity to do it. And one of the conditions I did it was that they let me write about my journey, which is chapter 13, life changing. And the publishers went, it's your book, you write what you want. And to be honest, I'd never really written more than 8 letters, let alone sort of 83,000 words. But because I'd kept diaries over the years, I smashed that out in about 3 months.
Not bad, because you haven't got a ghostwriter, did you? You've done all that yourself.
Yeah, I wrote everything myself. The only thing I did do, I've got a friend who, my English is not the best. He said he went through it and did all the punctuation and things like that. But everything in there was true. All the pranks that they played on me were true. The honesty about the mental health bit, the accident, what I went through was true. And again, that was really hard hitting. Off the back of writing that book, I had 2 people come forward who'd read the book, who came to me and said, I'm suicidal. I don't know what to do. How did you get through it? So I've got 2 people that I'm really proud to have been able to support, who are still around to tell the tale and are in a really good place now. So again, already, Scott, the fact that I wrote about it and was concerned when I wrote about it, because it's not the sort of thing at the time that people wanted to be. But do you know what? It's made me a stronger person. And that's what needs to change in the place of work. You know what it's like as a greenkeeper or a groundsman. We're very often the first person in work and we're the last person to leave at night. And it's a lonely place at times. You're dealing with all the elements of the weather. You're dealing with the elements of management. And this culture needs to change. Management need to understand that mental health and the culture of mental health needs to start at the top. And I'm proud to work at Cambridge United, because I honestly think we've got one of the best companies in the football world for talking about mental health. It used to be a massive stigma, but now everybody talks about it daily. And that's from the top. That is our directors. And it takes away the pressure, and it makes you a stronger person. That if you're having a bad day, just say to someone, do you know what, actually today I'm not in a good place. And you get the support come around you. There is no stigma about mental health at Cambridge United. And what a great feeling that is to be like that, because I know for certain, and you're probably aware of it, and I won't name it, but obviously a groundsman not far away from Cambridge took his own life a while back. And it's awful for his family and everything else that goes with it, the same as it was for my friend who took his life 12 months ago. And it just needs people to support people. It's, if you have a broken leg and you've got a plaster on, everybody says to you, oh dear, how did you break your leg? But when it's to do with mental health, nobody can see it unless you tell people. And you'd be really surprised that when you do actually say, I'm struggling. I had so many people come out the woodwork to support me, and they were the last people on earth, Scott, that I thought would. I had police officers, ambulance officers, fire officers who had all been through PTSD, and I could relate to it. And the same thing applies. I've actually, in the last 2 days, had 2 more people come to me who are really struggling. And I've just spoken to them. And one of them's rung me today and said, oh my God, I feel so much better. And that is just through conversations. And I'm not a therapist. I just listen.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you're Cambridge based, and it was the Duke of Cambridge who has this as one of his main campaigns, one of his main driving forces. Have you met the Duke at any point to on your travels and work on this?
Do you know what? This is just my luck. The day the Duke of Cambridge came to Cambridge, I was actually working on one of my own charity days, which was about mental health away from the site. So I didn't get to meet him. But I think the fact that he was at the stadium, he was prepared to put his head on the block to announce that mental health was really close to his heart and he wanted to support other people. What better credentials do you need than that? And I've always said to people, and I'll probably get my head chopped off for saying it, but if the Duke of Cambridge is prepared to say that he has had mental health issues and he talks about it, then why shouldn't anybody else? If it starts again at the top and you can't get any higher than that other than the Queen herself, don't be shy telling people you need help.
Do you think it's more of a male thing, a macho thing, that that was what was causing the problems before it became more acceptable? And obviously that's now gone to a degree and people are more prepared to talk.
Scott, you're spot on. I was going to therapy for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the girl who was looking after me sort of kept saying to me, what's this? What's this? What's wrong? Why aren't you doing this? Why won't you take the medication? And then after about 6 or 7 weeks of going there, she went, right, today we're going to have it out. You tell me, what is the matter with you? And you know what? I did actually say, I just need to man up. And her words were, now that's the cookie I've been waiting for. And then she turned around and said to me, now, if you start to listen, we can start to work on it. But she let me go on for 7 weeks, which is the way they deal with it, before she actually hit me with the bullet. And then after that, then we started to work at it. But my journey from the time of the accident to me being signed off was 6 years. And I went for 18 months without telling anybody. And I was putting a mask over. And in fact, I am a miserable bugger. And I went through a personality change because I was working so hard to hide the fact that I was struggling. People thought I'd been taking happy pills. And it was just really weird that when it came out that what I'd been going through, so many people came to me and went, that's what we did. But because I was working so hard to hide the fact, I would come home and I was just physically exhausted.
Now, you're not there to answer everybody's phone call or take everybody's email. So what would you say to anyone in the industry who's feeling a little bit in this sort of position? What advice would you give them, ask them to do if you're not able to take everybody's phone call?
I think it's one of those things that you need to look at your own life to start with. I think, do you know what? One of the things I'd say to start with, Scott, and it's come up again recently, is look at the definition of the word holiday in the dictionary. And I'll guarantee you, not anybody in the modern world can take a holiday as it says in the dictionary, because you've always got your mobile phone with you. You go on holiday. Oh, I get it. Oh, there's a problem with the pitch. What do we need to do? You've got to try and switch off. So I now have a work life, I have a family life, and I have a social life. And you need to try and categorize those things. And everybody listening to this will go, oh, that's all right for you, mate. You can do it because of work. But let me tell you, in the past, I've been a workaholic and I didn't appreciate the impact it had on me, let alone having my accident and whatever. But you just really need to assess your own life at where you are. And if you are struggling, be honest with the people around you. You will be surprised by the support that there is close to you. My friend who took his own life, they had a memorial event after that, and over 80 people attended who were all very close friends to him. And he didn't have the strength to say he needed help. And that's where it is. No matter how bad things get, and I was as bad as it can get, not a million miles away from what happened to my friend. But I can tell you now that when I actually did come out and say, or found that I'd got chronic depression and I was suffering from PTSD, which was the biggest problem, because I was having the same reoccurring dreams 6 to 8 times a night. and having the sweat, so you never ever slept. Once I was diagnosed with that and I started to get treatment, and then I made it known commonly what I was going through, like I've already said earlier, so many people came out to help me. And that's what's happening with me now, because I've spoken about certain aspects of it, and I'm not clinically trained in any form, but just listen and tell somebody. And if you're not sure about how to go about it, just tell somebody close to you, do you know what? Actually, I've not been feeling that great. This is what I've been feeling. This is what I've been going through. And ironically, there will be something. There'll be a relationship. There'll be a money situation. You're under pressure at work. Somebody's bullying you at work. And you need to step back from it. Initially, look at yourself and say, is there something I've done wrong? Is it something they're doing to me? And ultimately, most companies will have an HR department. And if you're being bullied, you have to, and it's really challenging, but you have to stand your ground and you have to make people aware, because ultimately the managers in whatever business it is have got a duty of care to manage their staff. And again, I go back to Cambridge United, and we have the most incredible staff. Again, nobody would be allowed to be bullied or be uncared for. And that's a great environment and unusual. But to put it in another perspective as well with it, Scott, just remember the figures at the moment, they're talking about 1 in 4 people potentially suffering from mental health. Let's put that on a grander scale and talk in the football world. A football stadium that's got 40,000 people in on a Saturday means potentially 10,000 people in that stadium could have some form of mental health issue. So you're not alone. Nobody is alone. Nobody has ever been under so much pressure as what they have the last 2 or 3 years. What with the pandemic, now we've got what's going on in Ukraine, all the other elements of work. It's an understandable thing to have a struggle, and your body will protect you by having that struggle. It's telling you to change something within your life to make your life more manageable. And that might be that you need to say to your boss, actually, do you know what? I need another member of staff. And if you approach them and you can justify that you're doing too many hours, and yes, you'll have a battle. I've had battles, but you need to manage things for yourself as well. But if you are really, really struggling, then text Shout 85258. There's somebody there.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. There was 2 things. How do people get hold of Shout? And the other thing was, how do they get hold of your book? Is it all good bookshops? Can we still get hold of it?
It's still on Amazon, Scott, and it's still selling to my surprise. Off the back of the book, I'm actually going to Stratford next week to talk in front of 200 people. Again, majority of it will be about the mental health side and Shout. But no doubt there'll be 1 or 2 of the funny stories dropped in there as well. So it's there. And the other thing what we're doing, which would be really useful if there's anybody out there can help me, is as well as the walk from London to Qatar, Shout are, along with me, going to be doing a national auction. So if there's anybody that goes to the golf course who's a celebrity, or you work at a football club and somebody's prepared to donate a signed shirt or something along them lines, or you've got personalities that come to your golf course or football clubs, pop stars, a signed shirt with authenticity, anything like that, they can send them to me at Cambridge United Football Club in my name, and they will genuinely all be used for a national auction, and every penny will go to Shout and potentially save someone's life. And one of the important things about this as well is my wife never had a clue I was going through. She just thought I was being bloody awkward, to be honest. But ironically, in the family, they're normally the last people to know there's a problem. So you could be supporting your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, your grandparents, because this situation is not going to go away, especially with the way the world is at the moment. And people need help. The NHS, when you get on the system with the NHS, were remarkable to me. And I will be indebted for the rest of my life to them. They were remarkable. And so were the people who actually sort of went through all the aspects of everything with me. but it's getting on there. So Shell and people like this now are so important in terms of saving life.
Now, have you got a Just Giving page? Is that how people can get in touch to donate for your cause?
It's actually on my charity website, which is cambridgecharityfundraisers.com. There'll be a monthly diary on there in terms of the walk, the steps, and it will be showing the daily steps on there. So the easiest way is for people to go to cambridgecharityfundraisers.com and just click on the page.
Wonderful. Now, I've taken up a bit of your time. I want to let you get back onto that treadmill, and you've got a few miles to do between now and Qatar. But thank you very much, Ian, for giving me your time this evening. It's a very, very important cause, and what you're doing to help it has got to be lauded. You've done a fantastic job. You're continuing to do a fantastic job. So credit to you, Ian. Thank you.
Scott, without people like you, the message would not get out there. So I'm sort of grateful to you as well.